Welcome to the Disc Dog Pod. I'm your host, Jeff Hill, and my co-host,
Kirby McIlveen.
Yep, and today we're going to be talking about freestyle. And what specifically?
We are going to be talking about risk versus reward in freestyle.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of different things that risk could mean. So we're going to go over a whole bunch of different ideas that we have with it.
Yeah. So how about you start us off?
Well, I think the first and most obvious one is difficulty with your throws. Adding difficult throws to your routine certainly can enhance it, which is the reward. But of course, the risk would be if you can't make the catch or if it doesn't look very good because you're not proficient with the throw that you're trying to make. So I would say that's the first place to start to add difficulty into your routine. And it's something that I've done a lot of, and I love making up all different types of throws and tricks with the disc, and just all different things. And this could be short throws, it could be long throws, everything in between. And there's many different ways of adding difficulty with your throws.
Yep. And I think even beyond that, I mean, you could say it's your throws too, but it could be a throw for something closer to you, whether it's like some kind of team move where it's like a dog catch or a vault or something. You've seen people that instead of just throwing a regular back vault, they might throw it under their leg. Right. That would be considered like higher difficulty, higher risk because, you're going around your body or something.
Or a butterfly.
Yeah, exactly.
Or throwing it upside down, just any little variation of it.
That's exactly other great examples. So I think all of that is kind of what we're looking to talk about here.
Right. So I think with throws, one of the biggest things for me, or what I like about it, is I like showing it off. I like showing off a really cool throw. Just something that maybe they haven't seen, or just a really good quality throw, doing an overhand that just is very stable and spinny at the perfect location to have your dog run really fast and get a good jump. I think that's my favorite aspect of it is it's time to show you and your dog off at the same time.
Right.
But, you see a lot of people throwing them in as if they feel like they have to. And you can tell that they're doing that because they're not very good at them sometimes. And then the disc does not look good. Even if the dog catches it, if the throw just didn't look good, you should have just thrown a backhand probably. I'd rather see a good backhand that's quality and a good placement that's spinny and it's not wobbling all over the place than trying to come up with a thumber or, some kind of behind the back throw or something more interesting that just looks all wonky when it's out there. It has to look good. It has to look good flying through the air. It has to be, everything about it has to be good. And that's where you're having the risk versus reward, because you're making a bit of a risk by doing one of these throws, just doing it.
Well, it's more difficult, right? I mean, you think if you do something easier, it should probably be, more likely that you're going to do it well and more likely that your dog's going to catch it. Whereas if you do something harder, it's probably more likely you're going to screw it up.
Right. And then if you can make it look just like any other throw, make them all the same quality, that's when you have something.
Yes. So maybe a good question is, at what point do you take the risk? So when you're working on a trick, and it's something more difficult, at what point do you say, okay, this is worth the quote unquote risk to put it in my routine because you might get a reward out of it?
And for me, I would say it's when basically I just expect or anticipate the dog's going to catch it pretty much every time. And in reality, it's probably more like 90% or something like that. But right. I basically, whenever I do it, I completely expect it to look good, and for the dog to look good, and for them to complete the catch, and for it to be 100% successful. That's sort of my vision of it whenever I use it, at least whenever I have a mature dog that's playing and competing and doing really well. When it's a puppy, I just throw everything, the whole kitchen sink in there and let them see everything. But
yeah, that's more of an experience thing for the puppy than it is like trying to win or something like that.
And you're not really talking risk versus reward with your new dog, really. That's something
you're just trying to figure it out.
Right. So if you're listening to this, I think you're somebody who's trying to get better, maybe improve and get higher scores and things like that. And this is one of the ways of doing it.
Yeah. And so kind of to talk about your point of having everything together on the risk versus reward type thing, when you're putting it in your routine and it's 90%, I think a lot of times what you see is, people have the throw about like 65 to 75%. And what happens is they have a really good dog, and the dog is saving them every time on it.
Right.
So when you look at it yourself and you're thinking, I'm going to put it in the routine, it is 90%, but it's 90% because the dog is carrying, not because the handler's making the great throw that really just kind of knocks your socks off as a judge watching.
Right. And what that gives is a good dog score, but you're not doing yourself any favors with your score, in my opinion.
Right.
I think the throw should look perfect, or as perfect as you can make it, or as good as anything else that you've thrown. If it's not as good as some other throw that you're doing, you probably should be doing that other throw that's better.
Right.
And even if you got to stick with more basic throws, the quality of the throw needs to be really good.
So I'm going to ask you kind of a theoretical question. So if you are a player that has, the throw probably about 75%, but your dog is carrying and catching every time to the point that it's 90%, do you do that higher risk move, or do you do the backhand that the handler's going to throw it maybe more perfect, but it's not as difficult, and the dog is probably 90% on both? Either way.
I think the more difficult, even though it doesn't look as good, because the most important thing in the routine is the dog.
Yeah. And I think you'll get you'll at least get attempt points.
Yes.
And if the dog's going to save you, but maybe we're all not so lucky to have the dog save us every time. Yeah.
So what other types of, I know you do a lot of other types of difficult things. There's a lot of things you could do as a teamwork with your dog that adds difficulty, but can also be risky in one way or another. And you do a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So we sort of talked about the throw aspect, where it's just the type of throw that makes it difficult. So that could be with the grip, where that's the way you hold the disc, or the release, which is how you throw it around your body. Like, so it could be under the leg or behind the back. But I think that a whole other aspect of risk or difficulty is the timing. So certain tricks, while it may not have a difficult throw, there's a more difficult timing aspect. And a really prime example of this would be like the spinning flip dog catch, where you see the dog flip into the air and the handler spins around in a circle while the dog is flipping. And then the handler catches the dog after they've spun. So the throw is inherently easy. It's just a little toss for a flip. But instead of just catching the dog, the handler actually has to time it so when they complete the spin, they're ready to open their arms and catch the dog out of the air.
And there is a difficulty with the throw, I think, because you got to put it in the exact spot. You can't be off by a few inches.
But I feel like the throw difficulty, so like if I were to just do a standard flip dog catch versus the spinning flip dog catch, I feel the throw difficulty is about the same.
Interesting.
If you're just talking about the actual grip of the throw and the toss itself. Now, the piece that makes it harder is the timing of it, because you have to be able to throw and move at the same time. Because if you've done this trick before, you probably already know you're starting to spin as you're throwing it. So to me, in my opinion, I call that timing difficulty, because it's the same throw. It's just I'm starting to move into the trick as I'm throwing it. But the throw itself doesn't really change. So that's why I consider it like timing difficulty. And so, I've talked about before, if you've ever done like a seminar with me, you've probably heard me say I consider it just mainly two different types of difficulty, which, by the way, this whole episode, we're going to call it difficulty or risk. And I think those words are sort of interchangeable for this episode. So in my opinion, there's really two types of difficulty. And one is the throwing, like we mentioned, and the other is the timing. And when you go through your whole routine and you're trying to advance and improve your routine, I think when you get to the highest level, what you're trying to achieve is that every move has some type of difficulty, whether it's the throw difficulty or the timing difficulty. And I tend to tell people that they should try to make each move fall into one type of difficulty or the other, and rarely do both. Now, maybe your finishing move has a timing difficulty and a throw difficulty, but if you do too much of those the whole time, like your routine, it's just not going to work. I mean, you can't you just can't do that. You're going to lose flow. You're going to sacrifice a lot of other things if you put both types of difficulty for every single move. That's kind of impossible.
I think that there's a third type of difficulty.
Okay.
And for me, it would be something that's physically difficult. And that could mean a lot of different things.
Okay.
It could be somebody catching a very large dog that's physically heavy. It's physically difficult to do that. Or if you're a small person or a child or something like that doing that type of thing, that could be impressive, seeing someone do a dog catch where the dog is as big as the person. That's a strength kind of thing. There could be strength kind of things where you're doing a handstand and doing some kind of throw while you're doing a handstand or doing a
some of those things to me
like
fall into the timing piece of the difficulty. So like when you say handstand, okay, yes, I see what you're saying where there's kind of like a different aspect of the physical difficulty of it. Whereas like I would think that doing a backhand throw out of a handstand is much harder than just doing a backhand throw between your legs. I mean, obviously the handstand one is harder because most people can't do a handstand, right? Most people can get the throw through their legs. My mom could get the throw through her legs, but I don't think she's going to be doing a handstand. But a lot of times I do sort of think of that as a timing difficulty to me in a way.
So catching a large dog, that's not timing though.
Well, some of it is timing, right?
Well, but I'm saying a large dog versus a tiny dog.
I guess I'm thinking, so like if I catch Link versus Flair, I have to be really careful what I do with Link timing wise. Because if I'm not like totally ready in the right thing, it could be really ugly for me. Whereas Flair, I just kind of fling it out wherever and I just grab her out of the air because she's so little. So I do think there is a timing element to it, but I can see why you separate the two.
And so what about something where somebody's doing a handstand, they throw it in the handstand, not through their legs, but they throw from down low.
Like around the arm or something?
Like that.
Gosh. See, that's turning into more throw difficulty. And the timing.
I think it's physically.
And it's timing difficulty.
Right. Well, yeah.
And it's physically difficult. I mean, it's like all three. That's like everything.
So I'd say my one trick that I had that had all aspects was the one I did with Enzo, where he would jump over my back. It's hard to describe. You have to see it to understand it. I know you've seen it many times.
Search up those old Enzo videos back in 2007 you did that?
Oh, yeah, and more recent too, of course. I mean, through probably 2010 or something like that. 11.
Well, that's maybe. Still 15 years ago.
Yeah, but he would jump over I would get down on the ground, kind of like in a back vault type of position thing. And as he was jumping over my back, I would rotate. So now I'm sort of like what do you say? Like people call it a bridge or something like that. But I'm basically facing up. I'm facing to the sky now. And then I'd throw the disc under my back while he's going under me. So he kind of jumps over me, then goes under me. And at the same time, I'm rolling and I'm just holding myself up with my left arm the whole time. And then I'm rotating on it. So my arm goes from holding me facing the ground to facing the sky. My arm has to completely rotate 180 degrees in my shoulder, basically. It hurt every single time I did it. It was really hard to do. And I had to physically hold myself up while waiting, making sure Enzo goes underneath me. And then I throw the disc under and I try to come out of it without collapsing completely. But sometimes I just have to just drop and then kind of stand back up.
That kind of achieves all of the types of difficulty
it's very difficult, and it has all the timing and everything because he has to jump over, go under, and then I'm rotating and my position's changing, and the throw is nearly impossible. I mean, doing a throw behind your back while you're on the ground, and you're holding yourself up.
Yeah, right.
It's all
and then
difficult.
the dog's supposed to be, doing their thing is like, okay, wow.
And I decided at the time, I was like, when I hit 40 years old, I'm going to stop doing this because I thought, I was waiting for my shoulder to explode at any moment, and I didn't make it to 40. I quit early. I never got injured, though. It just would bother me a lot, just kind of ache and things like that. But as soon as I stopped doing it, problem went away, and I've been too afraid to ever try it again.
So, okay, I got a question for you because you brought up the physical difficulty element, and I do think that's a thing, of course. But if you're judging around, we've talked a little bit about this before ourselves. Like, how do you think that human athleticism should play into score wise what you're doing or what somebody's doing?
Certainly depends on what you're doing. I think something like my example of catching a really big dog isn't as impressive as doing the handstand thing.
Right.
So I think you have to put yourself into their shoes and think, well, how hard would this be for me to do? And I don't know, maybe I'm stronger than them, or vice versa, or whatever. Maybe I can't do a handstand. You have to think about all these things, but you got to have a bit of reality come in to know that, well, I might not be able to do this, but I could tell that that's way more difficult than this other trick.
Sure. I guess what I'm like kind of thinking of is, like Paco Lobo, Adrian Stoica, like some of those guys. There's a couple of the Colombian guys that do some really crazy stuff. A couple of Korean guys out there that really do some really off the wall, crazy human athleticism moves.
Right. And I guess with a lot of those kinds of things, they don't even do throws in a lot of what they're doing. So for me, I want to see, while you're doing this thing, that a disc is in the air and the dog's catching it.
Right.
And even if you have the coolest thing, you do a flip in the air and jump and you throw the disc, if your dog misses it, to me, it and many organizations will say this, it's a zero effectively. You get no points for it.
Right.
The dog needs to catch it. And most of those people, when I've seen them in competition, at least competing against me, they don't do any of that stuff because their catch ratio is probably 10% or something. I mean,
right.
They could speak for themselves, but there's a reason I'm not seeing it in competition hardly ever, extremely difficult moves like that. It's very, very,
or
very
if they
rare.
do, it's a small dose of it. It's not the entire routine.
Exactly. It might just be one thing or a simplified version of something that they do. Me, I don't come up with any moves or tricks that I don't plan to put into my routine. I want everything that I do to be in the routine if it has a place. Yeah. So that's always my intention. So I'm never going to go way off the end of at the end of the rainbow kind of move that I know I could never actually achieve and even go down that path. If I know I'm not going to be able to do it, if I can't do a handstand, I'm not going to start working on doing a handstand throw. If I know that physically doing that kind of move is going to be dangerous for me or my dog, you're doing your handstand move and you fall. That's not good for you or the dog potentially. So I won't even go down the path of attempting something like that. Just to have it hit it once or twice and get a video of it. For me, I'm doing it for competition.
Yeah, you're more competition. I mean, some people practice tricks to post on social media, and that's totally fine and cool. I mean, I love seeing it. Right. It's just a different thing. I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat. I think I really try to practice stuff more for competition, and sometimes I do try some crazy type moves or something really difficult. And part of it's to test, okay, how consistent could I get this to potentially throw it in as like a finale move at a competition? Right. And a lot of times it doesn't work out. Like it's very challenging. And something that I feel too is that sometimes when you have one of those moves that is just a little bit too stand out from the rest of the routine, it's almost like so much focus goes into that move. And then if you miss it, right. I think it's actually more of a detriment than it would have been if it was just slightly less difficult. It was a little bit more even throughout the routine, right?
I agree. And I think that when you have a miss on one of those kinds of moves, it just looks worse.
It does. I think you get scored down more.
And I think the trick, they tend to be more like ugly misses where the dog's nowhere near it, or they hit the disc and it goes flying all crazy, or the disc goes into the ground over here and the dog's
because it's such a hard move.
It's so difficult, and so I think there are multiple reasons why it gets scored down. And I think they should, because if you're going to do something like that, you got to nail it. That's why I'm like 90% or basically expect it to work every single time. So when I've come up with difficult throws, whether it be some of the kick brushes I do or some of the interesting air brushes that I do. I also do the one trick with Muse where I have 3 discs in the air at once, but they're all doing different things. One of them spinning on one of them she's catching, and then the other one I'm popping out to the side so she could catch, and then I catch one. I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff happens. I practiced that until my hands wouldn't work anymore for months and months and months. And I expect everyone else to put the same work in with their advanced tricks, because whenever I went out there and did that with Muse, she effectively, the trick I'm talking about. Did she ever miss it? I mean,
we did it in pairs.
Right.
So yes, I know exactly.
We did. That's right. We did a modified version in pairs. Yeah. It was basically the same exact move, except you became part of the team doing this trick. And we effectively, in pairs as well, never missed it.
And but something to keep in mind is when you do have a trick like that, and if you do put all of the effort into that one trick, there's only so much time you have to practice. So that means you're probably taking away from something else. And in my experience, whenever I've kind of had one of those really supreme moves or, one or two of those, what happens is that I practice so much and I worry so much about that when I go out, I miss something stupid, like a little multiple or a flip or something just like bonehead that you would think I'd never miss that. And then I screw that up and nail the hard one. And it's
I can understand that,
grief.
but I guess for me,
which I'd rather miss the easy one, I guess, than the hard one. But
I guess for me, I practice it so much to the point where it's just second nature. I don't even need to think about it. Like that move, I don't do it anymore. Well, sure,
you hit that move, but then I'm saying like something easier in the routine.
Yeah, I haven't really had that issue, luckily, because I'm not thinking about the hard one at any point in time before my routine or anything like that.
You're not focusing on it.
I'm not focusing on it. It's just part of the routine.
It's equal to everything.
It's equal.
Else.
Everything should be equal, and I guess that's part of what I'm getting to. If everything's 90% or 100%,
well, I guess that's the strategy then, huh?
Everything
should be
natural.
Equal for you.
And typically what I would do with a trick like that is that would always come once I felt like we were solid with our routine, and now let's start coming up with something completely new, and I can work on that for 6 months while I keep my routine, and then finally add it in. And when I add it in, I'm maybe just taking out something that's a little simpler and not as interesting, and it just goes in and it just fits right in. And maybe the first few competitions, it's not as solid or whatever, I don't feel as comfortable with it, but after that, it just becomes natural.
That makes sense. So we were talking about the different types of difficulty, right? And do you think that there's certain ones that are more important to have than others? Like maybe let's say you're working your way to getting better and you want to focus on the most important. Do you have a ranking for which is most important?
I do. For me, the most important thing is the throws, and that's because that's what you're doing on every single time your dog catches, you're throwing it one way or the other, even if you're kicking it or doing something crazy like that or throwing it from your mouth. Those are all throws, and that's what you're doing the entire routine. That is the most important thing you're going to do. So you should be working mostly on your throws, and that doesn't even necessarily mean all these different variations. Beautiful throws, make them look perfect. And even if it's a backhand, make it look really good. Do something more interesting with it. Do it behind your back, under your legs, whatever. And make those perfect. And for me, that's the most important piece because it's going to be useful forever to have that type of thing. Getting like a crazy trick, type of thing, that might just work with one dog, or you may not even get that to work at all, but your throws are going to last a lifetime.
Fair. Yeah. I mean, I would agree. I think the throwing difficulty is probably the most important, most prominent, and probably affects the freestyle the most.
Right. And, I mean, you use those kinds of things, even though it's a difficult throw, you're using it to position your dog, to get a big jump out of them. You're doing all of those things, even though it's a difficult throw. So whenever I go out there and do something cool with a throw, I'm not just trying to look cool doing it. The dog's going to look really cool doing it. And that you'll see my dog look great catching it every single time because they're used to seeing it. They know whenever I do this throw, oh, here's where the angle is going to be. This is how far it's going to be. This is how high off the ground it's going to be. And they see it every single time. And the consistency happens. So I was thinking about another thing, and this goes with the timing, and it's also sort of like a throwing difficulty. I guess fast-paced kinds of things where you're doing, whether it be like a multiples kind of thing or 2 throws at once or 3 throws at once, things that are quick, where your dog is going catch, and you maybe did a throw this way, that way, and then the other way, 3 different ways in rapid succession. Those are really difficult and really cool to see as well. And they could all be backhands where their grip isn't all that interesting, but because you're doing it quickly, that adds difficulty. Also,
difficulty on the dog side too,
right? And difficulty like as a sequence. Let's say you do a sequence that has some vaults and a dog catch and things like that, and you doing really quick, boom, 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 and people are almost like, whoa, I almost didn't even catch all that because it was just so quick. To me, that's a difficulty thing, and it's awesome. I really like it.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorite things actually to see is like someone doing something really quickly in the routine.
Yeah. Yeah, because it kind of grabs your attention. You're like, wait, what?
It does.
What was that?
And it shows a skill level, and it shows a confidence that you have with your dog. And your dog has done this many times and is used to doing it, and they look really good doing it because they're automatic.
And if you're doing it quickly, there's kind of like no going back. You just have to do it, and you have to nail it. And there's no like, I got to reset it.
Right.
That doesn't happen. You either like hit it or you miss
Right.
it. And that's a different type of risk too, because it's like it's all or nothing.
Right.
Right. We've kind of been talking about the handler risk versus reward. Do you think it's different, like a different perspective from the dog's point of view?
Well, it is just like we were talking about with that one, that they got to be really quick, and you can you're automatically creating difficulty for the dog when you're doing a lot of variations, whether it be in your throws or if you're doing a spin and catching your dog. Everything we talk about, I think, adds difficulty for the dog. I mean, if you think about the dog looking at spin coming from one direction in one angle versus the completely opposite spin and then the opposite angle, and they have to learn how to catch a completely different disc. Everything about it's different. It turns differently. It fades or whatever's happening with the throw is the opposite, and they have to be equal on both sides. And so you're inherently adding difficulty for the dog, which makes them look really awesome when you're throwing all these different things. You do a butterfly, and then you do an airbrush, and then you
an upside down throw is another one that's right in there. Yeah.
And then you do a chest roll like you do. You do all those different things. The dog is demonstrating all sorts of different things there, whether it be patience, just absolute skill or athleticism. You're adding difficulty for the dog just by doing these things.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, all types of moves, it's the same thing. So if you're changing the throw, if you're changing the timing or anything like that, you're adding more difficulty to it, and should be more rewarded if you nail it right. So do we want to talk a little bit about like when you have like a high difficulty routine, and have you ever had times where it's like you nail it and you don't feel like you got the score you should have got because you're like, oh shoot, I nailed that, and it's like, oh
sure, crap. I mean, that's happened to a lot of people. It's happened to us a lot.
Yes,
and it hurts whenever you go out there and you have say 97% catch ratio or 100% catch ratio, and I've done every single throw imaginable, left-handed, right-handed stuff, and extremely difficult throws.
Yeah, that's another way to add difficulty too. Is and quote unquote risk is to do the different handed throws, and the dog has to be paying attention to both hands to know.
So I would go out and do all these things, and I look at my score and I see somebody did all backhands, but they did 12 flips and 10 vaults in their routine, and they got scored in every category way higher than me doing all of these things and having an insane catch ratio with it. It hurts, and it just happens, and it's something you have to live with.
Yep. Hey, there was a reason I used to do. So I used to do this trick, and it was a chest vault, but it was Sora caught one on the way up, and she caught one on the way out. So it was kind of like a combined of the Jakey trick where the dog catches the disc on the way to do the rebound, and then that combined with a regular chest vault. So effectively, she was doing a reverse vault and catching two discs in the air while doing it. So incredibly difficult for the dog, because on the way up, she had to catch one and then drop it immediately and go after the next one, and have to have the coordination to do that with her mouth and be sharp enough to catch, drop, and do the maneuver, which was the reverse vault. And I did it for a year, and I was hitting it in competition pretty consistently. And our freestyle scores were just like not very high. And I finally just said, I'm putting way too much effort into this to not get the score. So kind of where I was going with this was not to bash or really bring up negativity, but what I wanted to get at was, what do you feel that us as competitors can do to show our routine better so that maybe that doesn't happen?
So I guess,
because we have had plenty of times where we're scored awesome, like we nail it, and we might be way in the lead, or something like that. I mean, it's not like we haven't been rewarded for trying difficult stuff,
Right. So it sometimes, I guess a slightly different aspect is I sometimes like to do things where I expect the judges to actually not know what the heck I just did, but I hope it looks so cool that they just have to credit me for whatever the heck I just did. It could be that they couldn't tell what kind of grip I had, and then I threw it in a very unusual way, like I threw something behind my back that they weren't expecting, or it looks like I'm going to do a behind the back throw, and then I throw it the complete opposite direction. I actually change my grip mid throw. And I know for the first time, sometimes second and even third time that they see this, they're not going to have any idea what I did. And I don't really want them to necessarily.
Do you think that ever comes to bite you because they think you maybe didn't in some ways do your job as a competitor to show them what it was, right?
Because they could think along those lines. I hope that they think it was cool, but sometimes it bites me in the ass a little bit.
I do wonder if sometimes it does, right?
Does. But on the other hand,
it depends on the judge.
What I could say also is, look, it was in clear view to you. It is their responsibility to see what I did, and if they just couldn't figure it out, I was that good.
I'm kind of in line with that.
I did something so complex that they couldn't figure it out. It's really on them.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm judging and I see somebody do something and I don't know what the heck they did, I definitely want to go ask them what they did because I'm really curious.
I always give points
for it. But to me, it's a little bit of a plus. It's a plus. Boost.
Absolutely.
Because when I watch it, like if I'm judging, I sort of see it. Like it's a weakness in me as a judge to not know what they're doing. And they obviously showed me something that was more advanced than what I was capable of processing.
Right. And if you just
even if it ended up being a real simple move, and I find out after that, okay, that was way more simple than I thought, which I think usually is what happens. Right. But they made it look so flashy that it's like, you know what? Actually, even though it was technically simpler than I thought, the presentation of it was so good that it covered up anything else.
Right. And I always say, I call it flavor. I love putting flavor in all of my throws. Especially before, I was probably had a little bit more flavor with what I did, but I always try to add something a little special to every single little throw just to try to make it more interesting and more exciting. And judges a lot of times aren't going to be able to tell what the heck I did, but they should think it just looked neat. I liked how it looked, and that should be enough. And that's the thing too, that doing something difficult for the sake of it just to be difficult, to me, that is of no value. It needs to add something to the routine. So it needs to, first of all, be placed properly and have good spin and all those kinds of things if you're talking about a throw. But it also needs to, maybe you're doing a lot of motion with your throw. That's nice because I like things that take up more space than if you're just kind of like this and, all tight and not looking like you're doing much of anything. If your arms are moving more, your dog is moving more, it adds something to the routine. So if I come and do like an airbrush, a lot of times I'm moving when I do them and even almost running to get the brush. That makes it look more interesting than if I just stood here and I'm just concentrating on it, making sure I hit it just right. I'm doing it in flow as maybe my dog's spinning and maybe I'm doing something else. It adds to the overall presentation. And that's something I want to see. I don't want to see just doing something crazy difficult and the only thing interesting about it is that it's difficult. That to me doesn't add anything to the routine. You may as well just done a simple backhand because wouldn't add anything to the routine either for me. It needs to look nice.
So you like a lot of the presentation aspect of it.
Yes.
The difficulty should be tied into the presentation aspect.
Yeah, it shouldn't just be difficult no matter what it is. Some people have done some difficult things that quite honestly just seem kind of goofy, like just very strange things that you could do with the disc just to make it strange. I don't know.
I think the greatest example of that is anybody who's thrown it barefoot with their toes. I've seen a couple people do that, and
you're horrified.
I hate feet. I don't think anybody should be barefoot out there. That's my hot take. It grosses me out. I can't stand it.
I'm with you 100%.
I don't know. But I'm like, don't do that. Don't do that. I've never had to sit in the judging chair when somebody's done that. I don't even know what I would do. But like, I don't know that I'd score them down. But I don't think it would be a bonus for me.
I'll give you a borderline example, something that's very similar. It's something you do. It's with the disc in the mouth. And it could be a mouth take like you do.
You were going to bring that up.
Or it could be the throw like Steve Tier does.
Yeah.
And for me, I give both of those high scores. I will never put a disc in my mouth that's been on the ground, that who knows what has been out there in the public park, that you're going to pick it up and put it in your mouth. Listen, I'm not doing it.
Okay, so hold on. Let me, because I'm a germaphobe. Well, hold on. Let me justify why I did it, okay?
To get points.
Well, let me justify. I think this is great. This is great. No. Okay, so that move that I used to do with Torch was the mouth take dog catch, where I'd hold the disc in my mouth, like you said, and Torch would jump up and grab it out of my mouth, and I would catch him. And so let me justify why I did this. When I put it in my mouth, okay, no lips touching, okay, and it was just barely as light as possible, and I wasn't licking it, okay, tongue back in the mouth, Jeff. I'm not like licking. Okay. And then the other thing is that, like, I would never do this with a dog that eats turds, okay? That if they're a crap eater, Torch was not. Torch never ate anything
What
gross.
about the disc just landed somewhere where some...
We don't think about that, okay? Hold on. We don't think about that. Okay, so I was
there. There could be all sorts of bodily fluids out there.
I was grossed out about this. And the other thing is I look at the disc and I just, we're going to, it's kind of like, you know, like, what was that show? Was it Survivor? Where would they eat the bugs and stuff?
Fear Factor.
Fear Factor. That's what it was. Okay. So it's kind of like that. Like you just kind of close your eyes and pretend like you're not doing what you're doing and imagine it to be something else. So we don't talk about that. We don't think about that, Jeff. So shh. And okay, but let me tell you why I did it. Because I thought that it showed something really impressive about Torch, that he could grab it out of my mouth and keep control, and none of us would lose any teeth, or, you know, I wouldn't get knocked on my head.
Like I said, I give good scores for it.
That's good.
I think it's disgusting.
Well, I'll be honest, I'm kind of glad that move has been retired for me, personally.
Steve Tier, last time I saw him compete, he did the mouth where he actually throws it. Throws about 10 yards, something like that.
Which is impressive.
Yeah, at least 5 yards.
My neck would hurt doing that.
Very impressive. And dog always nailed it. He did it upside down, the throw upside down.
Yeah.
I
still do it right side up too.
Okay, yeah. It's very interesting. I saw.
It's easier to hold in your mouth when it's upside down. You wouldn't know this because you haven't tried it.
Never, will not even consider that. So the other one who did something similar, more than one person I think did this, but the one I know is Russ Green. My probably favorite move of all time I've ever seen somebody do, back vault to a throw from his mouth. Oh
yeah, Chris Cabral used to do it too. Okay. I didn't know Russ did it also.
Yeah, Russ was the first one I saw doing it, or the one that it was in Colorado.
Yeah.
I remember at the CCC, and it was the first time I ever went to Colorado for anything actually in my life. I think I don't know if I drove through there or not. I may have. Can't remember when I moved to California if I went through Colorado or not. I actually can't remember, but it's the first time I really remember being in Colorado, if it wasn't my first time. But it was, that stuck with me. I was like 2006
That's a cool trick.
or something like that. It was really cool. So anyone who knows Russ Green out there, you know, that was
from back in the day.
That was an awesome move that he did. Disgusting, but awesome move.
Like I said, I'm glad I retired that move with Torch.
On that note, do you have anything else to add to this?
Oh man, I think that's probably a pretty good place to leave it.
Discuss. No.
Well, we hope you enjoyed our conversation today about difficulty and even when we go off the rails.
And what was this? This was the Disc Dog
Pod. We're going to get that in sync one day. We're going to get a lot better. We should practice the outro. Bye.